went to the doctor and got some blood work ran and you don't feel fine, but they tell you everything looks fine and send you on your way. We know how frustrating that can be. And so in this video, we just wanted to share a little bit more about why getting a very complete panel of blood work is a great place to really dig into what might be going on underneath the surface with your health and share with you what those markers are and hang on to the end. We're going to show you how you can get a free download of all the markers that we'll use with clients that would be really great to have a good assessment of your health. So Jen, do you want to start with the iron conversation? Because this is definitely one that we really like to run extra markers for to see exactly what's going on, and it's really misunderstood.
Yes, for sure. So one of the very misunderstood things is that if your ferritin is low or if your iron is low, that you need to supplement with iron, which in our experience is wrong 99% of the time. Would you agree, Carrie?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So we have a really complicated iron recycling program in our body that recycles about 24 milligrams of iron a day, and we only need about 25. So, and you are more than likely, if you are a meat eater, probably getting that milligram of iron. And so what we do is we really look at all the iron markers. So TIBC, IBC, saturation, to look at where the iron is, right? Because most of the time what we see is that the iron is usually hanging out into the tissue and cannot get to the cell. And that's because we don't have enough bioavailable copper and bioavailable retinol, which is the active form of vitamin A. And those are deficient in people, I would say almost 100% of the time. Even looking at my own stuff, I've noticed it's just we don't eat the foods where we used to get a lot of those nutrients from. And so because those two nutrients run the iron recycling program, they basically shuttle the iron to the cell. Because they're not able to do that, iron will be high in the tissue, but it'll be low in the cell or the blood work. And so it'll look like you're iron deficient, but
Right.
really what you're deficient in is the nutrients to really shutter the iron to get it where we need to go. Carrie, did you want to add
Yeah.
anything to that?
Yeah. And I think too, with the nutrients needed, vitamin C can definitely be in that conversation and maybe B vitamins too. And so many of these are obviously not in our diet, but also depleted by stress. So that's just something that between those two things, a lot of people do struggle with this. And whenever you think about iron being high in the tissues, it's not just that we can't use it properly, it's that also it contributes to things like inflammation, which is something that we're
Yes.
always kind of looking to kind of get a handle on, right? And kind of keep down at a good level. And also, it can feed infections. It can feed things like parasites. And so, this is why obviously it's important to run these iron markers to look to see where the breakdown is, but also look at the entire blood work picture to see more so of like what are the other markers saying that might be going on as well. What is the
I,
story that's coming from?
Absolutely. And I just want to mention that copper, bioavailable copper is in whole food vitamin C. So most of the stuff that you're
Yeah.
going to find on the market is just the ascorbic acid, which is the synthetic version that will not have the tyrosinase enzyme, which is the copper enzyme that we are looking for. So it has to be a whole food source, either through whole food supplementation or through a whole food.
Foods. Yeah.
Yeah, which we recommend. We rarely recommend ascorbic acid, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw that in there really quick.
Yeah. So copper and iron kind of go together. And so we sort of look at these together, but also, if needed, we can sort of see where the breakdown is with one or the other if more emphasis is needed on one or the other. But copper, it very much works with the same processes in the body. And also if it doesn't have what it needs, it can build up in the tissues and really affect the hormones. So a lot of times we see more estrogen dominance type symptoms or patterns with that. That's what we're sort of looking for as patterns. And so these two can play a really big part in some of the maybe symptoms you might be experiencing. So we run extra markers like ceruloplasmin as well as the ferritin, the TIBC saturation, all of those things to make sure of, what is the body needing to support these processes.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll talk more about copper dysfunction and copper toxicity in our HTMA video. So
Yeah.
give a look out for that, because that's super important and we find that very often. But we also want to mention thyroid markers because that's something that's not talked about enough as far as mainstream, usually only looking at a TSH. So TSH is actually a pituitary hormone. It's actually not even a thyroid hormone. It stimulates the thyroid to produce thyroid hormone. And most of the time, mainstream will only look at TSH, which we really like to dig deeper and look at the full picture of total T3, T4, free T3, T4, sometimes reverse T3, and then thyroid TPO or thyroid globulin antibodies. So again, there's more of that in our podcast. We talk a little bit more about that. But it's really important if you are having thyroid issues or you suspect thyroid issues and they tell you your labs are normal. A normal TSH range in mainstream is 1 to 5. Functionally or optimally, we like it between 1 and 2, maybe 1 point or 2.5 at the most. So if they're telling you that everything looks normal, but you have weight gain, you're losing your hair, and you're fatigued, you can dig deeper, and there 9 times out of 10 is a thyroid issue.
Yeah. So we'll link that podcast below if you want to check out more on specifically the thyroid panel, but just really blood work overall and how we look at it differently. We talked all about that in the podcast. Um, but just one more thing I wanted to mention is that we do more cholesterol markers than typical. We're not just looking at total cholesterol. We want to see the breakdown, and each one, if sort of out of range, can really tell us something about why is the body not necessarily processing the cholesterol like we want it to. Liver oftentimes plays a part in this because that's obviously what is needed, the bile to break down fats into cholesterol and other things, hormones. So that's
Which
definitely
is usually
something.
an issue. Sorry to interrupt
Yeah,
you.
yeah, definitely, right? I mean, this is something that can just tell us a lot more about symptoms that might be going on, and you're like, "Why does that have to do with my cholesterol?" But it's super important when we think, especially as women, about hormones. So, that's definitely something we wanna look at. But if you're wanting the full list of all the markers that we would recommend, we actually have put that into a free PDF. So we're gonna put the link for that below. You can just put in your name and email, and we'll send that over to your email. But this is something that you can use even if you go to your regular doctor and say like, I want to get a little bit more of a picture of what might be going on. And so these are some of the markers that you can ask for. But I think it's important to really to utilize blood work as it should be, right? Is to get more markers, get more information to see and kind of dig deeper about what might be going on. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys, and check out the podcast, get the free download, and we'll see you back on the next video.